Next week, Democrats will take the stage in Ohio for the fourth debate of the 2020 presidential cycle. 12 Democratic candidates will face off, making it the largest presidential primary debate in history. And next month's debate on November 20th will be in Georgia, hosted by MSNBC alongside The Washington Post. Joining us now, Chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Tom Perez. Very good to have you on the show.
It's always great to be with you.
We're looking at a number of issues. And in terms of the debate stage, it's getting a little smaller, but it's still a lot of candidates, and it's really tough to sort through all the answers.
Well, we have a deep field, and I think that's a good challenge to have, Mika. And we will have a debate next week. The criteria for next month it has gone up, and we'll see who qualifies in November. We're looking forward to our partnership with you again next month as well in Georgia. I think it's going to be a great night. And you know, the reality is right now is, I mean, the Democratic Party is walking and chewing gum. I'm confident next week we're going to talk about both this abuse of power by the president, and we're also going to be talking about how we're going to make sure we continue our work of ensuring access to health care, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, making sure that everybody has access to opportunity. I mean, I watched some of that rally last night, and you know, it's all about himself. We need a president who's focused on helping the American people. This abuse of power scandal is really illustrating to me, and I think increasingly to the American people, that this is a president whose North Star, he looks in the mirror every day because it's himself. And that's not what we need.
Let me follow up on that, though, because the abuse of power, of course, points directly at attacking Joe Biden. And
Absolutely.
I wonder if the party has done enough to push back directly as it pertains to Joe Biden himself. Why separate? Why separate the two?
Oh, we've been very clear. I mean, the president's been lying like a rug about Joe Biden. He's doing it to distract from his own criminal wrongdoing, or wrongdoing that I think is impeachable. And we've been very clear in saying, for instance, to Facebook, I think we were the first to say to Facebook, stop airing those ads. They're lies. They're lies, plain and simple. And frankly, I appreciate the fact that I think NBC, CNN, and hopefully others will do the same. And we will never hesitate to call out these lies and to make sure that networks don't aid and abet in this campaign to undermine the truth. And we will continue to do that as a party, just as in the aftermath of El Paso, when there was fake news going around that one of the shooters had a Beto bumper sticker. We immediately went to the O'Rourke campaign, told them of that, and we were off and running to make sure that that lie didn't get out there. So we're going to continue to be exceedingly aggressive for the vice president, who's been the victim of a smear campaign here, and for any other candidate who is the victim of similar smear campaigns. That's not, we will be consistent, and we will be vigilant.
Mr. Chairman, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning. As you know well, one of the criticisms in 2016 was that the DNC was on the side of Hillary Clinton from the beginning and helped shut out Bernie Sanders of the process, basically chose a side. Do you run the risk by rallying around Joe Biden of repeating that? In other words, taking a front runner, choosing a candidate, and perhaps not putting your thumb on the scale, but defending him more than you do the others?
We've defended every candidate, Willie. I very much appreciate your question. And if you look at what we've done throughout this process and this cycle, any time that any candidate has been the victim of a smear campaign, a lie campaign, we have been vigilant in calling that out. We have a team of people who spend all day trolling social media. When they see attacks on our candidates, we call the candidates, whoever it is, to make sure that they're aware of this. We work with them. I mentioned the work we did with the O'Rourke campaign. I mentioned what we're doing now to call out the lies as it relates to the vice president. We will call out anything that is attacking any of our candidates based on lies. We will continue to do that. We will continue to work with all the candidates when we see misinformation on social media. And I think so far here, You know, I can give you other examples of how we've identified issues for other candidates. We're going to continue to do that, and I understand the tenor of your question, and I think we've been even-handed to every single candidate, and we're going to continue to do that. And that is the essence of what we're about here at the DNC.
You probably saw yesterday, Mr. Chairman, that one of the 12 candidates who was qualified for the debate, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, is threatening to boycott that debate. She claims in a posting on her website that the DNC and the corporate media are rigging the election again. She believes the debates are just shows where they're focusing on the top-tier candidates. The other candidates can't get a word in. She also believes that the standards you all have set just to get on the stage of polling, she says, is arbitrary, not transparent or democratic. How do you respond to Congresswoman Gabbard?
We've been transparent throughout. I mean, when we announced our first debates back in January or February, we gave candidates 4 months. I think it was more than 4 months to qualify for the debate stage. Not only did we set up a polling criteria to get on the debate stage, but we also set up a grassroots fundraising criteria. That had never been done in politics because we set that up, Willie, because we wanted to give candidates who had real talent but maybe not the national name ID an alternative pathway to the debate stage. There were something like 35 different polls for this upcoming debate, and what candidates needed to do was get 2% in no less than 4 polls. So you have to bat 4 out of 35 to get on the debate stage at 2%. That's highly, I wouldn't call that a high bar. And in addition, if you look at 2016 and other races, usually there were about 6 to 10 polls that you had that were the polls being used. We gave you 35 different polls and a remarkably long runway to make the debate stage. So with all due respect, I have great respect for the Congresswoman. And by the way, she made the debate stage for next week, I would point out. I think we've been exceedingly fair and inclusive and transparent, and we're going to continue to do that.
Tom, Donnie Deutsch, how are you, man?
Always good to see you, Donnie.
Great, man. I want to do a little branding work with you. We worked together on the midterm and suggest, go back to Mika's point, that although on the one hand, yes, we want to give exposure to everybody, for the Democratic brand, the sooner they can get baked down to a few candidates, the more we can kind of see the hand-to-hand combat between them, really understand them. When is the tipping point where you up that game a little bit? Because it's just, I don't think it's in the Democrats' best interest as a brand to continue to go forward with 12 people. It just shows a very diluted approach, if you will. So that's just if we were doing a little behind-the-scenes branding work.
Well, Donnie, I think it's going to be up to the voters to figure out who their candidates are. And one thing that's very clear to me, we've had 20, 25 people run for president. All but one aren't going to make it to the mountaintop. And we need to make sure at the end of the day that every candidate and their supporters understands that their candidate, in fact, got a fair shake. So that when we have our nominee next spring, everybody is coming together, because our unity is our greatest strength against this president. And so next month, the bar for participation in the Georgia debate that we'll be doing with MSNBC is raised, both the polling bar and the grassroots fundraising bar. We will continue to evaluate what the bar should be for December, and I suspect we'll announce that in the not-so-distant future, because, again, we want to give all the candidates ample notice. And I understand your point about the fact that there are a lot of people in the race. We've got a deep field. And I think the voters understand that everybody on that stage is fighting for an America that works for everyone. Everyone understands that health care should be a right for all. Everyone understands that what the president did in Ukraine is unconscionable and is not what the president should be doing. So we're going to continue to make sure that we have an orderly process, a fair process, and a transparent process. And I'm confident that in the near future, we're going to be accomplishing a lot of what you're setting forth. But I don't think it's my place to call candidates and say, well, hey, maybe you should consider getting out. I really want to leave that up to the voters and to the candidates themselves.
All right, DNC Chair Tom Perez, always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. All right, so Reverend Dell, just looking at these debates, what are the questions in your mind in terms of the setup and also how potentially Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden separate themselves from each other and one of them tries to sort of take over the game? What do you think the potential for a dynamic between the two of them is with such a wide field on the stage?
I think you're clearly going to see some kind of interaction between the two of them, because this is the first debate that you're seeing Elizabeth Warren ahead of him, though it's a slight in some polls, but she's moved ahead. So the dynamics have changed. And they have the real problem of being policy driven, but at the same time knowing that they're going to have to prove electability, because Elizabeth Warren's challenge is that Joe Biden has said up till now, I'm the most electable, and she's got to establish how she's electable but stays consistent with her policies. And Joe Biden has got to try to recapture ground. Bernie Sanders has got to deal with the health issue now that he's come back. So it's going to be very interesting Tuesday night. The other thing, and I think Tom Perez is working on this, is the misinformation that we got from foreign governments. It came out with the intelligence from the Senate this week that they were targeting a lot of voters of color, particularly black voters, with misinformation. Don't vote. They did nothing about Eric Garner, using Eric Garner's picture, using social media and other things to suppress the vote. So you've got to energize the turnout and at the same time not be so extreme that you turn off people while you're turning on others.
It's a lot. Coming up, Elizabeth Warren had a great one-liner last night when asked about marriage equality. That moment is next on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.